start streaming. Alright. Looking good. Am I viewable? I am viewable. Alright. Cool. And, yeah. I probably should have let people know I was streaming tonight. That probably would have helped. I'm like 20 minutes late. Let's see. Alright. Hey, what's up, Supreme? How you doing, guys? What's up, Josiah? Hey, what's up, Tevia? How you doing? Hey, alright. There we go, guys. There we go. What's going on? How we living? Just gonna... Sorry, I know it's obnoxious, but, like, this shit is literal crack. Like, I'm convinced there's crack in this. This is really good. Cheetos has a new formula. I knew Ronald Reagan wasn't dead. He just went into the food industry. It's working. So, y'all read anything interesting this week? It was actually a very light week, I'm gonna be honest. Oh, shit. I added way too much cayenne pepper to this. Oh my god. What kind of crack am I snacking on? Oh, just Tostitos. But I think like Super Bowl season's like coming up, so they got like all these like I was never really big into football. Football was like not my sport. I was always like more of a basketball kid. That's because I'm from like, you know, I'm from Chicago, so basketball is like literally our thing. It's like that and guns. Either way, if you're from Chicago, you're a good shot. Ah, see what I did there? Ah! I'm proud of that joke myself, personally. Yeah, no, like, Tostitos has like these Super Bowl chips, and yeah, they're pretty good. I think they're good. Supreme, been rereading Invincible, Monsters. Oh, dude, nice. Reading Ennis's run on Hellblazer. Hold on a second. Just gotta. It's not. I mean, I was clapping as like a appreciation for you culturing yourself in Hellblazer, but as I started clapping, it felt like booty cheeks. So just don't close your eyes as I do this. Just watch my hands. Thank you. Yeah, man, have fun. And this is Hellblazer is really good. Although, like most Hellblazer, it very clearly takes place in the like late '80s, early '90s. So there's a lot of like like politics that are specific to the day in that, but still, those stories are really good. Have a lot of fun, man. Enjoy. And finishing up Full Metal Alchemist. Sweet. At my local comic book shop, we just started getting in more of the hardcover collections of Full Metal Alchemist. I think that Viz Media is trying to rekindle some interest and flames in Full Metal, which is really cool because I like the Brotherhood and I would like to read the manga, and because I have like major OCD and have to read comics the archaic way and put them on my bookshelf, it's like the only way I'm really choosing to like read them. So yeah. Just can we get a tour of your comic book collection, bro? I mean, my room's like a fucking mess. I'm like not. Okay, next week, in next week's stream, I promise I will have my bookshelf finished. I still haven't put it up yet. But after I do that, I'll do a room tour. Supreme Omega says, Dangerous Habits is the iconic John Constantine story. I agree. It is. I talked about this with my buddy Greg, in our Daredevil discussion, which you guys can view on the channel. Yeah, go check it out. It's still in the box. Yes, it is still in the box. But we talk a lot about how sometimes a story will become iconic for a character, and every writer after that story comes out, just like every artist after that story comes out, will just ape the tone and style and aesthetic and voice of that iconic story. And yeah, like, I'm not trying to, like, this isn't a diss on Jamie Delano and you know, all the other creators who worked on John Constantine before Garth Ennis, but yeah, the John Constantine that we have had in comics, not recently, because the real John Constantine died at like the end of his Vertigo run, in my opinion. But you know, up until that point, that was Garth Ennis's John Constantine. Like, yeah, I really think John Constantine was like, I don't want to say he found his voice, but Garth Ennis really added a flavor to that book that was, you know, that lingered for decades after that run. I would consider that like one of the like underrated, iconic comic book runs. In the same way that I think like Steve Englehart's Batman is like underratedly iconic. Underratedly, is that a word? I'm gonna make it a word. Yeah, no, like, and I think that happens a lot in comics too. And again, we talked about this in my Daredevil video with my buddy Greg. I think there are runs that are iconic that people just don't think of as iconic, but like unconsciously they're just riffing on that material that they don't know they're riffing off of. I think that's a really fascinating phenomenon. But yeah. Oh, with the classic middle finger by John. Yeah, that was great. It's John flipping the bird to Lucifer. That's so good. Wait, is that Lucifer? I don't think that's Lucifer. It's Lucifer in the John Constantine movie, or Constantine, because we're Americans, we have to pronounce things incorrectly. But in the Constantine movie, it's Lucifer. But in Dangerous Habits, I'm fairly certain it's just one of the princes of hell. I have it right here. I'm just gonna check. No, I don't have it. No. No, damn it. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I don't have it. That's like one of the comics that I think my girlfriend borrowed and never returned. Which is fair because I have like plenty of her comics that I've never returned either. It'd be like that. This is what happens when you date a nerd who reads comics. Sometimes they borrow your comics and you never see them again. Debbie says Action Comics has been really awesome. Action Comics is really awesome. Like, that's like a really kind of tragic thing about DC Comics currently. I think, well, one, I think Action Comics is the best comic that they're putting out right now. Just throwing that out there. I think Philip Kennedy Johnson's run on Action Comics is the best Superman comic that we've had in over a decade. And I really enjoy the I really enjoyed the Rebirth stuff. You know, I really enjoyed some of the New 52 stuff, contrary to, what everyone else thought. But nah, dude, I think Grant Morrison and Rise Morales' run on Action Comics is like the last great, like truly great run on that book up until you get to Johnson's run. And that's been like what, 8 years? It's been like 8 years since we've had like a legitimate great Superman run. That's awesome. And it's sad that like nobody's talking about it. You know, I'm seeing like all these like the reactionary YouTube channels freak out about like DC Comics going down the shitter. Which, to be fair, there's not a lot coming out of DC that's like great. And like just, I think DC's just in a weird spot that, I mean, they don't have to be in, but I don't know. It's just a PR nightmare. I think people are making it out to be way worse than it actually is, but because we live in the year 2022, it looks a lot worse than it actually kind of is, honestly. Yeah, no, like, people aren't reading Action Comics, and they should be. I think it's great. It's one of the best superhero comics coming out right now, like across the board, across Marvel, across DC, across Image, Boom, IDW, everyone. Philip Kennedy Johnson's run on Action Comics is great, and I think in the future it will go down as one of the great runs on Superman. But yeah, not a lot of people are reading it, so spread the word, guys. You know, spread the gospel of Johnson. Although, to be fair, I think one of the reasons why not a lot of people are reading it is just poor faith. You know, because a lot of people were really loving Superman Rebirth, and then DC just cut that whole shit off at the knees. So I do understand if people are just hesitant to get back into a good Superman run just off the fear that DC's gonna come in and DC editorial. I get that, but you know, money kind of talks. It kind of does. So let's up those sales on Action Comics. Supreme says, although I feel the initial Jamie Delano run is unfairly overlooked, I feel he laid the groundwork that Ennis and later writers built upon. He does, yeah. I'm not trying to take away from Jamie Delano's run at all. I'm just saying that I think, okay, in the same way that I think that we give a lot of credit to Frank Miller, you know, for making Batman dark again, when really he's just building on what, you know, writers like Denny O'Neil and, you know, artists like Neil Adams and you know, other creators like Carmen Infantino and goddamn, what's his name, Roger Stern, you know, and Steve Englehart, like guys like that. That's all Frank Miller's building off of what they established, or much rather re-established for the character of Batman. But we tend to give a lot of the credit to Frank Miller because we're all aping the Miller aesthetic, even though Miller is just kind of, you know, building off of what came before him. You know, I'm not trying to, you know, diss Delano and who came after Delano, because there's a guy between Delano and Ennis, but I don't have any of those trades because these Hellblazer trades are kind of expensive. Yeah, no, I think Delano definitely does like lay the groundwork for what John is going to be for the next couple decades. But Yeah, no, yeah, I wasn't trying to diss Jamie Delano at all. I still really appreciate his run on Hellblazer. Uh, um, any opinion on Dragon Ball Superhero? Because I saw the movie and it was really awesome and badass. Oh, I didn't know it was out yet. Bet. I guess I'm gonna go watch it. Are they doing like a limited release kind of thing, like they do with the with like most of the animated movies? Because I'll watch it in theaters. You know, I saw that Broly was in theaters, but I think I was working at the time and I couldn't like take off to see it. Although I'm like not inherently a big Dragon Ball guy, I'm just but because I've been like playing Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot on my PS4, I'm getting more into the lore of Dragon Ball, so you know, I might check it out. You know, yeah. Supreme says also in Hellblazer, if DC does a new Hellblazer series set in the Vertigo continuity, it should be about John's niece, Genma. She should be the new protagonist dealing with modern post-Brexit England. I agree. I think that would be great. I don't know who you put in that book though. Like, I love Ram V. I think Ram V would be a great choice for that kind of like story. But like I want Ram V to write everything. And I'll talk about Ram V in a second because I picked these up today. But wait, I did the Hangman like up, like right side up, weird. Yeah, no. I picked up Detective Comics. Really good. I love Ram V. I also like got his Swamp Thing. I didn't read it yet, but I bought the trade. I'm excited to check that out. But yeah, Ram V should just be put on everything. He's like the only person I really trust to handle a proper Hellblazer book. But yeah, that's a good idea though. Hellblazer following Genma. I will like that. Oh shit. That actually kind of reminds me I should probably be paying more attention to what's happening in with England's like economy. Because we are headed to the doomer in me thinks that we're headed towards the global recession, but I mean, I don't know honestly. But that's kind of the thing, because I minored in history, so I'm always kind of thinking about the past and how things kind of loop back around because, the past doesn't repeat itself, but like humans have a tendency to repeat themselves because we notoriously don't learn lessons from the past. But no, the world's in like a fundamentally different place than it was like 100 years ago, just through technology. So I don't know if this is all gonna work out. But that does set like an interesting, status quo for like a modern Hellblazer series. I think you could do so much with modern Hellblazer. Wow. Sorry, it's just hitting me that we haven't had a proper Hellblazer book in like over 10 years. That's weird. Wow. And I didn't even like the ending, to be honest. I wasn't a fan of those last couple of years. I know people really like them, but I don't know. At the time, I just wasn't really a fan. But it's been 10 years. I might feel differently looking back. Or like going back to it. Question. This is from W. Any opinion on the Sandman show? Because I've been watching that show and it's been really good. I have not been watching Sandman, um, because my autism doesn't work like that. I have to read the comic before I watch before I watch the show. I know that's really dumb and silly, but it's just that's how my brain works. I can't do it. I can't do it at all. So I'm gonna read through at least the next couple. I've read the first trade of Sandman, but I haven't read beyond that. But I'll read at least like the like volumes 2 and 3. Yeah, I've been told that show is really good. Um, I have seen clips here and there. I really like the cast. I don't know the actor who's playing um, Morpheus, but he's like straight out of the book, like weirdly just straight out of the book. It's weird. And I also like who plays Death. You know, she's very soft spoken. Um, I there's one thing with Death that kind of throws me off, and you guys might know what it is. The actress is British, and that fucks with my brain. And she's not doing the British thing where like she hides it with an American accent. No, she's just British, and then I'm like, oh, I've never heard Death in my head as a British woman, but okay. I mean, it still works. Just weird. But yeah, no, I like the cast so far. I did see a clip with Lucifer. I thought the actress who plays Lucifer is really good. Although in the show they're playing Lucifer as being very like far more menacing. Not that Lucifer in the Sandman series isn't menacing, or at least from what I've read, because I haven't read the whole thing. But I do know that the Sandman the Lucifer that we see in Sandman is the same Lucifer from the Mike Carey Lucifer series, and I always got a different vibe from Lucifer in that Vertigo verse, you know. And maybe it's because I read Mike Carey's Lucifer series before I read Sandman in high school, but yeah, no, just Lucifer. He's just so done with everything, you know. Like, by the time I read Sandman, like I'm going into that series with the knowledge that okay, they're going to abandon hell. They're going to have their the jazz club in L.A. and just chill out and not want to be bothered with any of these divine politics anymore. So like my read on Lucifer was always just being very lax and chill and like I don't care about any of this crap. Just take your stupid fucking helmet and get out of my just get out of my house. That's how I've always read Lucifer in the original Sandman book, but I don't know. Maybe they were a lot more menacing. I don't know. I have to go back and reread it. Tevy says, "Oh, Robin was also amazing as well." Oh, is that the conclusion to the Damian Wayne book? Yeah, I saw that on the shelf in my store. Robin's gonna be a book that I pick up in trade. I still have like weird just reservations about just Damian as a character post Morrison. I just don't like how anyone has really handled the character since Morrison left. Like that character is designed to die. They weren't really meant to come back, and then DC just immediately brings them back. And just everything I've seen with him has just been kind of a complete affront to what Morrison was trying to do with the character. Like I remember when Damian like went rogue, you know, he broke bad, you know, he like shot like I think he like shot Black Mask in the face, and Batman like confronts him and Robin rips the R off his chest, and Damian's like, being Robin sucks, Dad. He storms off. That is not Damian at all. Grant Morrison makes a big point to show that Damian left everything behind. He left being the heir to the demon. He left his mother. He left the family who raised him. He left the League of Assassins and that legacy and responsibility behind to play crime-fighting superhero in this shithole of a city that's never going to get better with his father and his adopted family. And he died over it. That's how much being Robin meant to Damian. So, there's this weird thing that DC's been like dancing between over the past couple years, where Damian's like, I reject being your Robin. No, I'm not. No, I don't like it. Might as well have just kept him dead if you're gonna do all that crap. You know, just. So I haven't been reading anything with Damian Wayne in it since he's come back from the dead. But if you say it's really good, I'll give it a shot. You know, that's all I can do. I never like to just write something off and, you know, say I'm never gonna go back and read that. No, comics are vast and opinions change over time. So maybe I will like it in the next little while. I'll give it a shot. Supreme says, advice question: how to recommend comics to a potential new reader who could care less about superheroes? Don't recommend superhero stuff. And if you do recommend superhero stuff, recommend something that is so tangential to superheroes that it gets them interested in superhero stuff. But for like any kind of new comic book reader who's like just getting into comics, I always try to recommend them stuff that is based on what kind of movies and video games they like. You know? So for example, there was a guy who came into my local comic shop and he was asking for some recommendations, and I asked him what his favorite movie was, and he was like, well, I don't know, but I'm gonna have to think about that for a little bit. And I asked him, alright, well, then what's your favorite video game? And he said that his favorite video game was Elden Ring, because he's playing Elden Ring right now, and he's like, oh, Elden Ring's so good, I love fantasy games, I love like weird horror shit. So I was like, okay, you like Elden Ring, you like games like Bloodborne, you know, you like games like Dark Souls, and I handed him the deluxe version of Berserk, because that would be completely up his alley. I mean, games like Elden Ring, games like, you know, Bloodborne, all those like Lovecraftian horror, you know, like Middle Earth kind of games, pulling heavily from Berserk. So I recommended him Berserk. He really enjoyed it. Then he came back. He wanted some more stuff. He picked up the second volume of Berserk, and I also recommended him. God damn it! What's the name of that book? It's the one by. It's the one by Philip Kennedy Johnson. The Last God. I recommended him The Last God. Because that's also like a very, like, you know, Dungeons and Dragons kind of, you know, sword and sorcery kind of game. Not game, comic. So really I just front loaded him stuff that would appeal to his sensibilities, you know. Also, my girlfriend, for example, she's like already kind of like tangentially into comics. She's like more of a manga head, but when we first met, we were like still friends, just hanging out. I know her. Her big thing. She loves like you know, like the very irreverent kind of like, you know, tongue in cheek, silly, you know, sci-fi stuff like the Adult Swim kind of material. She likes Meat Canyon, but she also likes like Voltron, like the Netflix Voltron series, and she likes a lot of the LGBTQ friendly comics. So I was like, all right, Saga, perfect. And you know, that was the comic we kind of bonded over. So you know, that again, appealing to the sensibilities of the person who you're recommending comics to. So really, that's all it is. Just recommend something that you kind of know is in the same flavor town of the person who's, you know, trying to get into comics. And if they are into superheroes, but like they're not really into like the, oh man, I think Marvel movies are kind of lame, or oh man, just DC, man, just, nah. Get them the OGNs, you know. Get them like Mr. Miracle by Tom King, you know. I kind of hate saying it like this, but it is what it is. You gotta get them the superhero comics that are like, I'm not like the other superhero comics. Like that's more the flavor you gotta go for people who are, you know, trying to get into superheroes, who think they're too cool for superheroes, but really they just want superheroes. But yeah. Sorry, that was like a very long answer to a very short question. Tevia says, Dan Jurgens' Rebirth run on Action Comics was also amazing. I liked it, you know. It didn't blow me away, but I thought it was really good. I scrolled too hard. There we go. And Jeremy Adams' run on The Flash has been great. It has been great. You know, I read I got the first trade. I loved it. And I've been keeping up with the individual issues when I can get them, just because I waited. But no, I've really been enjoying the Jeremy Adams run on The Flash. Jeremy Adams, where have you been all my life? Come on. You were born to write The Flash. And the artist, I can't name the artist off the top of my head. But their art's been fantastic. Just you know, you guys watched Ordinary Sausage? Just 5 Mark Ruffalo's out of 5. Brilliant. I love that Flash run. It's been the most I've enjoyed the Flash in quite a long time. Josiah says, did you enjoy the New 52 Justice League? I don't know about you, but it felt incredibly rushed to me, especially for Jeff Johns. I didn't like New 52 Justice League. Well, no, I take that back. I liked it as it was coming out, but then I read past Justice League runs, and I was like, oh, hell no, this is not good at all. My big problem with Jeff Johns' run on Justice League is my big problem with Jeff Johns' everything post Infinite Crisis. It feels very much like he is pitching a movie. Like, you know, people, especially like in the comics YouTube, like reactionary sphere, always bitches about how comics don't feel like comics anymore. They just feel like, you know, shitty Netflix movie pitches for a studio to like actually take and turn into something that is good. That's how I feel about a lot of Jeff Johns material, or at the very least, that's how I feel about a lot of modern Jeff Johns material. Like I felt that way with his run on Action Comics, you know. I felt that way with his run on Justice League. It felt like a movie pitch, which, I mean, yeah, Zack Snyder's Justice League exists, it those comics were a movie pitch. Like, you know, yeah. So I just wasn't a big fan of it. But consistently had great art. Jim Lee was great, and then Jason Fabok, who took over for Jim Lee, magnifico. So yeah, at least the book had great art. Tevye says I've been covering Action Comics on my channel. I've seen your videos. Yeah, they're really good. Remix. Hey, what's up, Remix? How you doing? Remix 36720 says, what are your thoughts on Miracle Man? Have you read both the Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman runs? I would if I could get my hands on them. But I haven't. Well, no, I have, but like not for a long time. I've read part of the Neil Gaiman run, but I've never read the Alan Moore run at all. I really want to though, and I hope that with Marvel doing more with Miracle Man in the next couple years, they reprint a lot of that stuff, because I would definitely like to get my hands on that. Definitely. Because from what I've been told about Miracle Man, it's, again, as I was talking about earlier with, you know, like Roger Stern's Batman, not Roger Stern. I keep getting Roger Stern and Steve Englehart mixed up. I have no idea why. But, you know, I feel like very much in the same way that, like, Steve Englehart's Batman run is, like, very influential on comics, as well as, Chris Claremont's run on the X-Men, you know, Jack Kirby's Fantastic Four. I feel like in the same way that those comics are just insanely influential on superhero comics up until like current year, but like people don't think about them as being as iconic as at least we think they are culturally. I think Miracle Man is one of those. I think Miracle Man is one of those books that is very influential on how we write modern comics, and people just don't think about it. Supreme says, for me, as a comic fan, I've been trying to avoid modern big two superhero comics. The older I get, I appreciate the power of stories ending and characters having closure. I feel you. You know, I definitely, I vibe with that. I like that, but I think you can have like definitive endings for yourself in like your headcanon for characters. Like I'm a big fan of, damn it, Greg. Oh, alright. Give me a second. Sorry, that was Greg. Oh, sorry. Actually, Greg wants to know if you guys want to see like a part 2 to our Daredevil discussion, because he feels like we didn't talk about Daredevil enough. So just let me know in the chat. I mean, I'm not adverse to doing a part 2 because I like talking about Daredevil. But if you guys want to see it, just, you know, let me know. Oh, right. Definitive endings. I think through headcanon you can have definitive endings for characters. Like, for example, I love the Chip Zdarsky run on Daredevil, you know. And just like I really like the Bendis run on Daredevil, just like I'm really enjoying the Ann Nocenti run on Daredevil as I'm, you know, checking those out through the Epic collections. But I don't know, for me, I still feel like Matt Murdock's story kind of ends with Born Again. Like I don't know. The newer stuff is really good too, but that's where Daredevil ends for me. Just like I feel like Amazing Spider-Man 500 You know, the Straczynski run. That's the end of Spider-Man in the 616, as far as I'm concerned. Definitive ending. That's over. So you don't need anything else after that. So yeah, no, the use of headcanon is very very influential in that regard. But I do feel you. You know, I think giving characters a definitive ending is very powerful. And with Marvel and DC's refusal to let characters have an ending, I can see how like frustrating it can be. Trying to like follow them continuously. I get that. W says that's because Bendis came into Superman and ruined everything. Yeah, you know what? I'm not a big fan of Bendis, and I'm not. I am far from a fan of his run on Superman. But you know who's a little more to blame for the Bendis era on Superman? The editors who let it happen. And that's who it always comes down to, as far as I'm concerned. The creatives are always going to creative, but the editors are the ones who are in charge of these characters. They are the gatekeepers of these characters' legacy. And yes, the editors who they let Bendis all over Superman. So that's their fault, as far as I'm concerned. Remix 36720 says, I'm gonna amend that. Not changing your name. I'm just gonna start saying Remix 36720. I feel like that's a better way to say that too, unless you say it some other way, you know. But Remix says Neil Gaiman and Morrison briefly wrote some issues of Hellblazer during Delano's run. Alan Moore created Constantine in his Swamp Thing run, though. Yeah, he did. And I really like what I've read of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, but I don't think, like, even though Alan Moore creates the character, I don't think Alan Moore created the definitive voice for John Constantine. I really think, again, I think Delano finds the voice for the character of John. You know, he finds John's niche, but Garth is the one who really fleshes the character out. You know, that's how I feel, at least. Tevia says, I actually saw Dragon Ball Superhero on my birthday. It was amazing to see in theaters. Oh yeah, man, that's awesome. Oh, cool. That means it's probably not in theaters anymore. I'll check. Oh, it actually still is showing in theaters. Oh, but these are like all theaters that I have to like drive to, that are like in the middle of fucking nowhere. I don't want to do all that shit. I'll wait till the streaming. I'll wait till the streaming. I'm very lazy like that. I just don't like going out anymore. I think the last movie that I saw in theaters was like... Actually, you know what? The last movie I saw in theaters was Crimes of the Future, and that was really good. But also because like no one else was in the theater. It was just like me, my girlfriend, and like a friend of my girlfriend's. That was it. So, yeah. Josiah says, I read The Fourth Turning and read Seven Soldiers of Victory. If you're interested in history and historic cycles, absolutely fascinating stuff. I have read a lot of the Fourth Turning. It's one of those things that I think is interesting, but some of the guys who kind of like are at the forefront of like presenting some of those ideas about the fourth turning. I have some reservations about where the ideas come from, but I don't know. I'm also kind of getting to the point where like I'm questioning how important that is, because here's like the eternal question for me: what's more important, the idea or the person who comes up with the idea? You know, because someone you like disagree with on like 99% of matters can still come up with like an idea where you agree with them 100% that like 1% of the time. And should that 1% of I guess agreement be negated just because of the other 99%? I don't know. That's kind of what I'm like mowing over in my head. But yeah, the fourth turning is like that's really interesting stuff. And I have not read Seven Soldiers of Victory. That's one of those comics just like it's just not collected. At least I don't think it's collected right now. I'll check. DC will like this is like the frustrating thing with DC. DC will they'll just shadow print stuff. So like even if like it was out of print for years, it'll come back into print and you didn't know it was back in print. Like I swear, if I didn't work at a comic book store, I would not know that John Byrne's Man of Steel was in hardcover right now. I found out like a year after they were already being put out. Let's see. And I don't see it. Oh, it is back in print. Nice. All right. Well, guess I'm gonna check that out. Tevi says the actor who plays Morpheus is amazing. Yeah, he looks really good, and I liked him in some of the scenes that I've seen of him on just YouTube floating around the web. I saw a clip on Instagram with Joanna Constantine, which, by the way, I like that they actually pronounced the name properly, because that shit really chaps my gears, really butters my balls in the worst way possible. I Constantine is the way we pronounce like the historic religious figure's name, but it's Constantine. It's Constantine. You know, rhymes with line. You even say that in Hellblazer. But yeah, like I think like they gender swapped Constantine for like a weird like legality rights thing, which I mean that happens. She plays the part really well, but I mean it is just like it's just a gender bent version of John, and it's kind of weird to me. Again, with Death being British, although not really just like with Death being British, because that's like I don't know. It's making me like want to go back and reread Sandman, and like I don't know, see if she does have like any British kind of like slang or whatever. That I just was oblivious to because I was reading that with like American eyes. But you know, the Joanna Constantine thing is weird because I mean not in a bad way. Again, it's just not everything that's weird is bad. It's weird because it's weird to me because she plays a really damn good John. It's just not John. Appets. Hey, what's up, Appets? How you doing? Can you show your My Hero Academia? Sure. Yeah. Here you go. Boom. Cool, like little 1A shirt. You know, if you can see it, like this. I'm not that tall. I'm like actually very short. I'm like 5'6". Well, it's actually not super. It's not like, you know, short. I'm the average height, but yeah. Compared to all the dudes in my family, I'm super short. And there's nothing on the back. It's just blue. Tevye says, speaking of Lucifer, that reminds me, did you see that Lucifer show on Fox, which switched to Netflix? Nope. I took one look at that pilot and said, hell no, I'm not watching this. Wasn't watching it. David says, yep, the conclusion of Robin actually happened this week. Okay. Yeah, that was that issue. Supreme says, on comic book editors, we tend to be real critical of editors, but sometimes editors can be beneficial. Just look at Karen Berger. Without her, the comic book British invasion might not have happened. Yeah, no, okay. I'm not, like, bashing editors. And I think that us in a comic book space, we tend to, you know, put writers and artists on a pedestal at like the detriment of editors, and, you know, write them off and go like, oh, you're just vampires who want to suck the joy out of my story. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Final Crisis. But nah, dude, like, editors are valuable, but that's why I also put a lot of responsibility on the editor, you know. I think that editors are held to like a higher standard of, like, I don't know, I don't want to say higher standard, but editors shoulder a lot of responsibility in the comic book publishing process, because they are the final set of eyes who are supposed to look over everything in the book and then give the go-ahead to say whether or not this is good for the public or not. And I don't know. So that's why, like, if a comic is really bad, I don't blame the creative team. I blame the editor for letting it come out. Just like I think if a comic is really good, I think the editors should also, you know, they should also get some credit, because they're the ones who okayed the book to come out. Damn it, not again. I keep scrolling too aggressively. Okay. What about Peter J. Tomasi? Because he did a great job with Damian Wayne, Robin, and team up with Jonathan Samuel Kent as his 10-year-old self with Super Sons. Yeah, I really like Super Sons. I think Super Sons is a great book, but at that same time, I don't know. I just don't think that Damian should have come back. I like the interaction that Damian has with John, but I don't know, that's just like a weird comic bias that I have. But I will say I think that Peter J. Tomasi is like the only writer outside of Grant Morrison to write a proper Damian Wayne, my opinion. Tevye said, I hated the Adam Glass Teen Titans run for destroying Damian Wayne's character. 1000%. Remix 36720. Morrison's Damian was great. I wish we could have gotten 10 more years of stories with Dick Grayson as Batman and Damian as Robin. Well, that's what Grant Morrison wanted to do, but then DC was like, no, bring back the real Batman. Although, personal opinion, and this is where I agree with Supreme, this is just weird. Reading corporate comics, this is one of the negative trade-offs. They were never going to let Bruce Wayne stay dead. They were never going to let Dick follow up in Bruce's footsteps and progress from being Nightwing to being the next Batman properly. That was never going to happen. I mean, I think it worked within the grand scheme of Morrison's entire run, but be like that. Reading corporate comics be like that. You know, I love them, but it is what it is. Tevye says, skip the Robbie Thompson Teen Titans run with Damian Wayne Robin. I wasn't even looking in that direction. Remix 36720. Have you, now that you mentioned it, have you read Berserk? I have read Berserk, and I really like Berserk. I haven't gotten that far, though. I've only read the deluxe editions, which are like these big-ass, expensive like tomes that are the size of the freaking Bible. And it's a lot. It's a lot of reading, and they're very expensive. They're like $50 a piece. So I'm getting through that series very slowly. But I'm liking it so far. Tevye says, speaking of My Hero Academia, that reminds me. Yesterday I bought the new My Hero Academia movie on Blu-ray, and seeing the movie again on Blu-ray made me so happy. Which one? There's been the 3 movies now. Which is like kind of the weird thing with My Hero Academia. Like I feel like My Hero is current year Naruto, in the sense that the manga is fairly straightforward, but when you're like trying to like watch the anime, it's like all these movies that are like kind of canon but not really canon. Just don't think about it. If My Hero does like a massive like time skip, like Naruto does with Shippuden, then you're also going to run into that same problem where it's like, hey, well, this Naruto movie actually takes place before Shippuden, and blah, blah, blah. This takes place between... Oh, Jesus. Then you end up with, like, 12 seasons worth of anime with, like, 15 animated movies, 7 of which are not canon, until one that is canon retroactively says that the others were no. Frustrating. That's the thing that was like the main reason why I did not get into Naruto until very recently. Because my girlfriend read the entire manga. Yeah, her ADD like actually is useful because she'll like read an entire series. Which my ADD is like, it's not useful at all, because I'll pick up a book and I'll be like, oh, this looks really cool. I like the art in this. The art of this reminds me of some other book. I'm going to go read another book. And then I just read 5 other comics, and it's like, oh, wait, I never finished reading the book I started. Yeah, no, My Hero is going to be weird in the next... That's going to be a weird thing to look back on in the next, like, 5 years when that series is over, I think. Unless Kori Horikoshi does, like, a sequel series, which I can totally see. Tevye says, did you read New 52 Teen Titans? No. I didn't. I did not at all. Didn't look good, so I just didn't check it out. Um, Supreme, which Spider-Man is new reader friendly? The original 60s Lee Ditko run or Ultimate Spider-Man by Bendis and Bagley? If you're trying to get like a new reader into reading Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man is the way to go. Ultimate Spider-Man. Because the cool thing with Ultimate Spider-Man, and I'm actually talking about this with a buddy of mine who recently got back into comics, and like missed the entirety of Ultimate Spider-Man. So now he's like reading Ultimate Spider-Man in omnibus form, which I'm really glad that Marvel's putting out the Ultimate Spider-Man omnibus. That's really cool of them. Even though I think that's a book that should always be in print in every format. Don't know why it took them this long to put it in print, but it's what it is. But yeah, no. The cool thing about Ultimate Spider-Man is that it's basically taking like the entire, like, I guess at that point 40 odd year history of the character, and with the benefit of hindsight saying, okay, what are the most iconic Spider-Man stories that have come out the past, like, 40, 50 years? Okay, let's take a version of Peter Parker, which everyone's like familiar with, which is, the iconic teenage kid, high school version of the character, and let's tell a bunch of like 80s like gang war stories with that classic 60s version of the character Spider-Man. Let's tell a bunch of 80s Spider-Man stories with 1960s Peter Parker, with a 90s Spider-Man artist, and then I think through that entire equation you wind up with, as far as I'm concerned, the definitive Spider-Man run. So yeah, if you're getting someone into Spider-Man, you want it to be like new reader friendly, Ultimate Spider-Man is the way to go. Remix 36720. The full Alan Moore Miracle Man and Gaiman's run. Alan Moore Miracle Man and Gaiman runs are going to be reprinted in October. Oh, well, all right then. Guess I know what I'm spending more of my money on. But that does give me more incentive to like finish building this bookshelf. Which actually, this is not the only bookshelf that I bought. I have 2 more that I bought. And I should probably put this one together before those arrive in the mail. Which should be in the next like week or so. So yep. I need to put my bookshelves together. Supreme says, also on endings, I recommend Starman by James Robinson. It's the only series where a hero gets to have a definitive ending, because if a writer wants to use Jack Knight, they gotta have Robinson's permission. Oh, that's cool. Is it kind of like with Neil Gaiman and Sandman? Like, you can't use any of his, like, the Sandman characters without asking for Gaiman's permission? That's kind of cool, yeah. Alright. Sevia says, do you believe Marvel and DC Comics should take lessons from manga? Absolutely. Sorry, I'll finish your question first. Do you believe that Marvel and DC should take a lesson from manga and let their characters have endings, like for Spider-Man, Peter Parker and Mary Jane to finally get married and have their daughter? Well, you're definitely inserting some wishful thinking on behalf of your love for Mayday Parker, which I feel you. I love that series. I'm glad that Marvel put it back in print recently. I have to scrounge some change and get those books again. But yeah, no, I definitely think that Marvel and DC should take a page from manga and do that. Although, the funny part about that And this is something that I'm going to talk about with one of my friends in the near future. Okay, so when you get to like the history of comics, you know, and this is like the fourth time I've done this. I feel like I'm like pushing some like weird, bizarre religion on you guys. I'm so sorry, but I can't help it. Wait, did I just fuck up my whole? There we go. I'll center myself a little more. All right, there we go. Okay. Don't look at my unmade bed. I rushed out of the house this morning. But Comic Book Nation, you know, this book is really good. Really details the history of American comics, in like a big bad way. So when we talk about the status quo and comics always reverting back to the status quo, that is something that is the result of the Silver Age of comics. You know, that is something that is the result of the Comics Code Authority basically rushing into the comic sphere, the comics culture, and snipping their balls off, you know, saying, hey, you're telling stories? Don't do that. And I know there's like a lot of reverence for the Silver Age, and I get it, but it's the reason why Superman wasn't allowed to, you know, grow as a character for like nearly 25 years. I was going to go back to the status quo. It's the reason why Batman and Robin weren't allowed to grow as characters for like 25 years. You know, status quo. You know, make the stories easy and digestible, and you know, don't upset the apple cart. You know, just tell light, fun stories and have everything go back to the way they're supposed to be. And unfortunately, even though we're like 60, 70 years removed from the Silver Age at this point, of all the things we've kind of deviated from the Silver Age, that's one of the things that remained in terms of like comic book storytelling sensibilities, or at the very least it has with Marvel and DC. This need to always go back to the status quo. And it's frustrating. You know, I really wish Marvel and DC would just abandon that notion entirely, but they're not. They're simply not going to do that. And it's funny that like manga does that all the time now, you know. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Mayday Parker alive and kicking in the main Marvel universe. Well, according to Mephisto, she might be. Or I guess will be. Debbie says, I also blame Dan DiDio for letting Bendis destroy everything with Superman. You know, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. You know. Remix 36720 says, agree 100% on Born Again and Amazing Spider-Man 500 being headcanon endings. Also would say that Secret Wars 2015 is that for the Fantastic Four, and Claremont's final X-Men issue is that for the X-Men. I feel you on that. I'll take it a step further. I think that the 2015 run on Secret Wars, like that, like Hickman's Secret Wars, that is the end of Marvel. Like the Marvel universe is over after that. There's more stories to be told, you know, and you know, yeah, you get that cool ending with like, you know, Miles and Peter swinging around New York City. You get that cool image of Doctor Doom hanging out in a Castle Doom, and he's laughing, and there's the caption. I think it's his caption, but it might be Reed's, saying everything lives. Okay, cool, sweet, whatever. That's the end of the Marvel universe, though. The Marvel universe is over after that. It's done. Just like the DC universe is over after Final Crisis. For me, Final Crisis represents the end of DC Comics. I know there's more story that's told after that, and the point of the ending of Final Crisis is to say that, you know, these characters are eternal and they're going to live on forever, and there's always going to be more stories. But no. Final Crisis is the end of the DC universe. As far as I'm concerned, at least. Supreme says the ultimate creative sin with never-ending superhero stories is that character growth gets undone and changes like death get reversed. Just look at poor 616 Spidey for the past 30 years. Well, you see, that's the thing. I don't have to look at 616 Spidey for the past 30 years. It's over. What are you talking about? Spider-Man ended with issue 500. There has been no Spider-Man book for the past 25 years. Or, no. 20 years. Spider-Man's been canceled. What are you talking about, man? It's been crazy. Josiah Haynes, ideas are eternal. So is Batman. That was low-hanging fruit. Sorry. But yes, ideas are eternal. I keep fucking scrolling so aggressively. Jesus Christ. It's time for Marvel and DC to have a reality check. I think they're in for a rude awakening very soon. You know. So true. Spider-Man's become such a broken character in the comics due to all the reversals and retcons. Yeah. That's like one of the like really unfortunate casualties of just modern Marvel comics and just the corporate formula. Spider-Man's one of them casualties. It sucks. Josiah says Seven Soldiers is basically the fourth turning in comics. Interesting. When you say the Seven Soldiers, are you talking about like the Morrison Seven Soldiers of Victory, or the old like All-Star Squadron Seven Soldiers? Because I saw like both when I like Googled it, and I was like, oh yeah, Seven Soldiers. You know, Green Arrow and Speedy's on that team. Also Star Spangled Kid, I think. Supreme says, the reason I love classic Vertigo continuity with Hellblazer, Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing is that I love the real-time continuity. I love characters actually aging into their 30s, 40s, and 50s and eventual death. I agree. You know, that's one of the big reasons why I love Hellblazer. I love that we get to watch John grow and change as a person. Like the John that you see in Dangerous Habits is not the same John that you see in say what's the Sean Murphy one with Cy Spurrier? Is that a City of Demons? Yeah, no, like those are two different Johns, not because they're one's written out of character and one's not written out of character. Just no, John grows as a person in that like 15-year time period. You know, yeah, no, I missed that. I missed that. What? Okay, it's really funny and irritating because right now I'm going through a bunch of old Marvel comics. I just picked up Walt Simonson's Thor, and I mean I've actually read Walt Simonson's Thor. Or at the very least, I've read most of Walt Simonson's Thor at this point. Yeah, this is like this is the other comic that I picked up this week. Really good, but just like, oh man, I forgot that like the Marvel Universe is like kinetic, you know, for a solid 40-ish years. Like if you like looked at the decades, Peter Parker in 1966 is not in the same spot that he's in in 1976, and Peter Parker in 1976 is not in the same spot as he is in 1996. You know, these characters grew and they progressed, and then just we lost that somewhere along the lines, and I don't know. But like in a weird way, I feel like a lot of creators recognize that we lost that. So there was this mad dash to progress everything all at once, and then you had this weird era that like a lot of the reactionary channels like to dub the SJW era, and like this SJW like soy cuck bullshit's ruining comics, and it's like no, I don't think the books were that good, but you were seeing a lot of creators, I think, recognizing the stagnant nature of Marvel and DC Comics, but like more so Marvel at the time, and you know, there was this real kind of effort to progress the universe, but it was just done in a way that was so, how do I put it? Dog shit, and not at all thought out properly, and poorly planned. That the backlash caused a lot of it caused the company to just kind of like go back on a lot of that progress and say, all right, well, if you want Captain America to be Steve Rogers again, they're going to go back to that. If you want this character to go back to being what they were, we'll go back to that. And it's like, okay, yeah, I don't know. I don't want Marvel to have learned the wrong lesson from that whole debacle. I like that Laura Kinney becomes Wolverine. The problem with that Laura Kinney Wolverine status quo wasn't that Laura Kinney was Wolverine and that Logan had died. The problem was that Tom Taylor was writing the book and it was awful. Sorry, I didn't want to do a double swear and like spend like 2 minutes. You know, I try to keep this show PG, but slips. Sometimes I get PG-13, which is weird because some of my videos I'm just like rated R for no fucking reason, just like that. But yeah, no, I don't want the wrong lessons to be learned there. You know, just like when you look at like the DC universe, I'm fine with Superman passing the torch to Superboy. Maybe not John Kent. I don't like John Kent. I don't like the idea of Superman having a biological son whatsoever. I'm sorry. I'm a heretic. Kal-El should be the one who becomes Superman in the future, but I digress. Regardless, I like the idea of Superman passing the torch of Superman to a younger successor. I like that idea. I'm down with that idea. The problem with the current Son of Kal-El book isn't that it's new and different and weird. The problem is that it's bad. You know, that's the frustrating part. You know, I don't want these companies to learn the wrong lesson. But a lot of times they do, and it's a little frustrating. Tevye says, which is why I'm really not into liking the Zeb Wells run right now. I'm not reading it. I read like the first 2 issues, and no, I'm good. Supreme says, on 80s superhero deconstructions, I recommend Rick Veitch. Veitch? I don't know how to pronounce that name. I feel like an English teacher whenever I pronounce names that I can't roll off my tongue. But it says Max Immortal and the Brat Pack. More demented than Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns. Rick is one of Alan Moore's notable collaborators, and Moore gets his approval. Oh, okay. Guess I'll check that out. Supreme Omega says, goes on to say, on Alan Moore, hot take. I prefer Moore's more hopeful late '90s, early 2000s work like Supreme, the ABC, the ABC stuff such as Tom Strong, Promethea, and early League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Oh, nice. Actually, it's funny. Do I have it over here? I actually just started reading. Here we go. Stupid trash can. I just started reading Terra Obscura. This is really good. Although I feel like a very lengthy run on Tom Strong happens before this, and I don't have that, so I'm gonna try to check that out. But this is really good. I like this a lot. In a way, this is like kind of everything that I wish Marvel and DC were right now. in a way, I'm like halfway through this. This is just like cool quintessential superhero comics. I fuck with it. It's great. And it really makes me want to like read a lot of that Tom Strong material that came out just before this dropped. But you know, I really like the more hopeful, optimistic Alan Moore too. Yeah. I mean, not knocking his more pessimistic stuff. You know, Neonomicon is structurally it is a marvel of storytelling, but Jesus fucking Christ, Alan. Jesus fucking Christ. Tevye says the new one, My Hero Academia one up that words. The new one, My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission. Oh, that's like the new movie that came out. Okay, cool. Supreme Omega on Miles. He should return to the Ultimate Universe. I feel like he had more of a personality and growth there. Not to sound cynical, but Marvel will never retire Peter, so Miles might as well go back to the Ultimate Universe. No, I agree. You know, unfortunately, Peter's just going to continue to grow stale and further become a parody of himself, so there's no real point in having Miles stick around in that universe, as far as I'm concerned. Although I kind of disagree on Miles having a personality in the Ultimate Universe. I've gone back and like reread some of those comics. Miles is like he's boring. Like, I remember in my Into the Spider-Verse movie review, I really praised that movie for giving Miles Morales a fucking personality. I mean, okay. Me being completely honest, sometimes in my, like, videos, I get a little dramatic, let's say. Sometimes I say things that I disagree with myself on. That is not an instance where I disagree with myself. In fact, I agree with myself even harder. Miles Morales does not have a personality in the comics, like, at all. Miles is just a boring blank slate of blah. His personality is, look at my best friend Gank. I'm annoyed by my best friend Gank. I'm the straight man. Okay, I'm just gonna. I'll say this. Building a superhero comic around the straight man is boring. There has to be internal conflict in your protagonist. You know? Your character's gotta have some flaws. Your character's gotta have some nuance. Your character has to be wrong sometime. You know, your character has to not always have the right answers for any given problem. All of the personality of the post Peter Parker Ultimate Spider-Man book rests on Gank leads. Not leads. Gank Lee. Yeah. I said leads because Ned leads. It's in the MCU is basically just Gank. But Gank is the personality of Ultimate Spider-Man in those Miles Morales years. What? No. No. So, yeah, no. If you that's the problem with, I think, putting Miles back in the Ultimate Universe. If you do that, well then Miles is just going to fall further and further into the well of obscurity. And God, I keep scrolling too aggressively. Holy shit. There we go. Marvel seriously needs to have Miles Morales go back. Oh, you already, yeah, it's already been said. Supreme says on Man of Steel. Oh, all right, we're talking about Man of Steel now. On Man of Steel, I have no problem with Superman killing. My issue is a lack of follow-up with the epilogue in BVS. I feel like Clark should have constant post-traumatic stress over killing Zod with traumatic nightmares. I can vibe with that. I can vibe with that. Yeah, I feel you on that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel you. Personally, I'm okay with the route they went. I personally don't have a problem with Superman killing. I know that's like a very taboo thing to say, but I don't mind it. Whenever I see people play the like Superman should never kill card, and this isn't me trying to like make a blanket statement about these people or those people or my people or your people. I feel like a lot of people I interact with who the Superman killing ultimate no, don't do that ever. It's a very like kind of well, I don't know. I'm gonna have to sit and think on that one for a little bit, because I have like a knee jerk kind of like response, but it's a knee jerk response. It's not like a well thought out response. So I'll keep that in the back of my head. Bring that question up next week, and yeah, I'll have a more intelligent answer for you. But yeah, I will say I do like how in the comics, after Superman kills Zod, Clark goes off and exiles himself for a long time, and that's how we get the original Warworld saga from the '90s. I think that was really cool. Or not '90s, late '80s. Yeah, I think that was really cool. Yeah. Sorry, no, I'm like stuck on like my whole response. It was gonna be like a generational kind of thing. Um, but yeah, no, I have to like let those ideas ferment for a while before I like really delve into it. Um, Toby says even thigh. Oh, sorry. I saw thigh and I was like, what? We're going there? All right, cool. uh, Even though the status quo is so broken. Um, oh, with like Miles. Yeah. Um, Remix 36720. U.S. comic book industry is still feeling the effects of the Comics Code even to this day. But things are improving with more independent work and manga growing in popularity. Well, that's kind of the weird thing, and I can't words. I contemplated making this like a whole video topic discussion, but ultimately I just kind of put it to the side because I feel like we're in a weird spot in comics right now because a lot of the more vocal personalities who have built entire YouTube careers off of making rage bait content regarding the current status of U.S. comics. That's a generation that grew up in the 80s and 90s. For them, the ideal comic book is what they grew up with. But what they grew up with was a weird, compromised, like, product of the comic book industry not wanting federal oversight. And now that the comic book industry has more or less returned to what they were before the Comics Code of Authority existed, you're seeing that generation who grew up on those compromised comics reject them entirely. And it's very bizarre, it makes me it puts me on this weird train of thought, like, oh shit, in the long run, the Comics Code of Authority actually kind of won in a weird way, because the people who are still buying comics, because comics have, through weird, in my opinion, counterintuitive, commercial and marketing practices, they built their entire economic base on that Gen X, late boomer, early millennial generation, who are now they're more financially stable. Comics are now kowtowing to them, but the industry it's devolving, but in a positive way. I don't know. It's weird. It's fucking weird, dude. But yeah, no. I just had that whole black pilled kind of thought train a couple days ago, where I was like, oh wow, the Comics Code kind of won in a weird way. Tubby says, after they are feeling the effects of the 90s comic book crash. Yeah, they are. And unfortunately, I don't think they learned their lesson. Oh shit. Another phone call. Oh, and I've been going for an hour and a half. All right, I might actually hop off soon. Debbie says, unfortunately, after Secret Wars 2015, we got Civil War 2, which sucked. Yeah. Although I disagree with you, I think Secret Empire was really good. I think that's the first time in a long time I've actually really enjoyed a Captain America comic. I really like Secret Empire. It's basically hey, what if we did Injustice, but it wasn't dumb? I think the real problem with Secret Empire is that it just came out at the worst time it could have come out, because there were so many people who were getting into Marvel Comics through the MCU so their frame of reference for Marvel was, the movies, and they didn't really have like a concept for the comics. So they're like, Captain America's a Nazi now. Pearls, my pearls, my pearls. And also it was during the 2016 election, which everyone and their mother who normally don't pay attention to politics, but they care now all of a sudden. They had some strong opinions, so I don't know. It's worst time for that comic to come out. Even though the comic was about everyone freaking out, so it was kind of the best time for that comic to come out. But yeah, no, I love Secret Empire. I think it's great. Remix 36720. Agreed. Secret Wars is the end of the Marvel Universe as well. It's hard to believe. It's hard to have a better way to end it than a final showdown between Doctor Doom and Mr. Fantastic at the end of time and space. Fucking right on, brother. You said it. That's the perfect ending for the Marvel Universe, I feel. Supreme Omega, thoughts on licensed comics? I feel they deserve more love. I mean, Larry Hama's 80s G.I. Joe series was one of Marvel's highest selling comic series. I like licensed comics, Yeah. Licensed comics are really good. I like a lot of the early IDW Transformers books. I think those are really good. I also love... Holy shit. I keep forgetting I loaded a lot of turmeric in this. A lot more than I needed. But I also love the Dark Horse Star Wars comics. That's my shit. I love those. Those are amazing. And those are licensed comics. So yeah, no, I like a lot of licensed comics. I'm seeing if I have anything else over here that's licensed. I don't see anything on my bookshelf, but I know I have more. Josiah says, oh yeah, okay, it was Morrison's Seven Soldiers. Okay, got it. Theory says, I think we lost Marvel Comics universe growing up after Joe Quesada ruined Spider-Man and X-Men. Oh wait, how did he ruin the X-Men? To be fair, I think you can say a lot of people ruined the X-Men over the past 30 years. It's what I hear so many people say, this creator ruined the X-Men, this creator ruined the X-Men. But people have been saying that since Age of Apocalypse. Since before that, since Claremont left the X-Men, people have been saying the next creative team ruined the X-Men. Supreme says, the sad thing about modern Spidey is that for the first 30 years, Spider-Man was remarkably consistent in quality, more than any other title that started in the 60s Lee Ditko Kirby era. Well, I feel you, but I would take Spider-Man out of that sentence and replace it with Daredevil, because I think Daredevil is the most consistently good character that we've had in Marvel Comics history. Spider-Man goes through some dips and dives. I know a lot of people love Jerry Conway. I think Jerry Conway's run on Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, is really good. And I think it was a really good second chance. Because, oh god, I do not like Jerry Conway's run on The Amazing Spider-Man after Stan Lee leaves the book. No. I think he did a couple of good stories. I think the death of Gwen Stacy is really good. I think the first appearance of the Punisher is also really good. and I think um, is the Luke Cage issue? Is that a Jerry Conway issue where Luke Cage shows up in uh like J. Jonah Jameson hires Luke Cage to kill Spider-Man? Is that Jerry Conway? I think it's Jerry Conway. I think those issues are pretty good. I think Jerry Conway introduces a lot of really cool characters to the Spider-Man mythos, like Gloria Grant. Um, but outside of that, I don't like his run. I don't think it's good. uh, um, and then you get like the like mid '70s stuff. I don't think the '70s is a good era for Spider-Man. I think the '60s is great. The '70s is when Spider-Man hit the lull. And then the character finds himself again in the '80s. Yeah, '70s is rough for Spider-Man, I feel. Not as rough as like the past 20 years have been, but definitely it's rough. Also, all new, all different Marvel changed nothing with Peter Parker Spider-Man, and we're trapped with Dan Slott Spider-Man. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Dan Slott Spider-Man either. I made a whole video about how much I didn't like Dan Slott's run on Spider-Man. Tevye says, believe me, I'm not a fan of Son of Kal-El. Yeah, it's really bad. I'm not one of those people who likes to say that only a creator of this, sexual orientation or of this race or of this religion can write, a character that matches, their creed or their identity. But maybe you should get a bisexual writer to write John Kent, because Tom Taylor is just making no. Debbie says, I maintain that you could have had Connor Kent become Superman, yes. But also a bonus, just have Jonathan be his 10-year-old self. That would be a cool dynamic. I mean, it's basically just the Grant Morrison Batman run with Batman Reborn, but with Superman, but I think it could work. Supreme says, the big writing sin with Norman Osborn's resurrection is that it set a negative precedent to undo any changes in Peter's story. For my headcanon, the Osborn family drama ends with Harry's death. Me too. Hashtag me too. Hashtag me too. I agree. Harry should have stayed dead. And Norman should have stayed dead. And that should have been the end of the Osborn family bullshit. Be that as it may, I still really like Mark Millar and Terry and Rachel Dodson's Marvel Knight Spider-Man. I think that's really good. But, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, Harry should have remained dead. Yeah, I feel you. Same goes with Naomi. No personality. Oh, yeah. I never checked out Naomi. It just did not appeal to me at all. It looked like he was trying to remake Riri Williams in the DC universe, and I also don't like Riri Williams, so there you go. Supreme says, if you want to rightfully hate John Byrne on something, ask a Spider-Man fan. He did the retcon where Aunt May didn't die in Amazing Spider-Man 400, and she was replaced with a genetically engineered actress. Yep. Good old John Byrne. Good old John Byrne. But again, I don't blame John Byrne for that entirely. John Byrne was just the writer. It was the editors of Marvel Comics who allowed that to happen. It's painful. Do you believe that we will see another comic book crash similar to the 90s? I think we're in it. Like right now, I think we're in it. Like in the same way that the comic crash in the 90s started in the late 80s, and we didn't see the effects of it until you got to the mid 90s. I think the comic crash that we're in right now started a couple years ago, and we're not gonna see the full effects of it until like the next, I think, year or so. I think we're gonna start seeing the effects of it real fast. It's gonna be like one of those like heavy snowballs. It's gonna smack you in the face. It's gonna smack everybody in the face. Even though, if you've been watching what's been going on as opposed to just like reacting to what's been going on, like a lot of people on YouTube have, I don't think any of it will come as a surprise. But for the people who weren't, you know, paying attention, rude awakening. Supreme says, on these Comicsgate guys like Ethan Van Sciver, why do they keep focusing on superheroes? Can't they read comics from different genres? They can, but they've built their bread and butter on bitching about superheroes being gay or superheroes being black. Like that's what they've built their entire empire on. Also, a lot of those guys they worked in the superhero comic book like industry, so that's what their focus is gonna be on naturally. Oh, good night, Tevya. Supreme says, thoughts on the fact that younger readers mostly don't care about the big two, but rather read standalone graphic novels, indie comics, and create their own stuff, with some exceptions like G. Willow Wilson's Miss Marvel. Well, you hit the nail on the head. G. Willow Wilson's Miss Marvel feels like a creator-owned book. Ultimate Spider-Man, more or less, feels like a creator-owned book. A lot of these kids, they don't want to read, you know, an ongoing, never-ending book where the character has no set resolution. They want to read something with a beginning, middle, end, just like, you know, a movie or a novel or, you know, a video game with a compelling story. They like, finality is a part of the narrative experience that I think is so rich that we just kind of overlook in comics. Again, echoes of the Comics Code of Authority. Always revert to the status quo. You can't progress characters. That's just a it's a really shitty holdover from an antiquated way of seeing these characters. But again, all incorporated in the coming crash. You know, I don't think Marvel and DC are going to die like a lot of the people who are, like, you know, freaking out about, you know, Marvel and DC on YouTube right now. But I do think there's going to be a major shakeup that's going to force Marvel and DC to change fundamentally. Like, Marvel and DC in the next couple years will not look like Marvel and DC as we've known it beforehand. It will look very different. Remix 36720 says Conan the Barbarian comics are licensed, and there have been a lot of great runs of that series. Yeah, man, my coworker was he's really trying to get me into reading a lot of the Dark Horse Conan. So yeah, no, I'm gonna check that stuff out. I just wasn't a big like sword and sorcery kid growing up, but now that I'm playing more stuff like Elden Ring, and now that I'm reading Berserk, my coworker is really trying to get me into checking out Conan. So, you know, I'm interested now. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna check it out. But the Dark Horse stuff, because apparently the Marvel stuff isn't that great. Remix says the X-Men franchise mismanagement post Chris Claremont is crazy. Bob Harris is most directly responsible for ruining the X-Men as he caused Claremont to leave. Damn. Yeah, I'm like very ignorant of a lot of the Marvel history involving the X-Men. That's just the corner of the Marvel universe that I'm not familiar with at all. Especially like on an editorial level in terms of like the history of that book. So, damn, that sounds like some drama. But some drama I'd like to read into. Supreme says, how about you're not a fan of Jerry Conway's Amazing Spider-Man run? I feel like Harry becoming the Goblin the first time and the original 70s Clone Saga, aka the only good 616 Clone Saga. Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, I'm not a fan of Jerry Conway's Amazing Spider-Man run overall. I think there were really good beats that are hit with characters, and I like some of the status quos that he gets to with a lot of the supporting cast of Spider-Man, but overall, I don't like Jerry Conway's run on The Amazing Spider-Man. I like his run on Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man, but Amazing, no. Also with Conway's Amazing Spider-Man run, there are the first steps of MJ's character development and she and Peter becoming closer. Yeah, no, that's the stuff I like. You know, I like that Conway, you know, kind of takes MJ from being this just vapid, like, oh, Peter, I'm a Sagittarius and watch me dance in my go-go boots. I like how he takes her from being just that character to being a fully three-dimensional, fleshed out human being. But, you know, just, I don't know. Like I said, there were nuggets of gold in that Amazing Spider-Man run. Just, you know, I don't think the run as a whole is all that great. And last one for the night. If you ask Claremont what ruined X-Men for him, is Jean Grey's revival. In his view, reviving Jean ruined Cyclops' character development with Maddie. Scott is forever known as the deadbeat husband and father. Okay, yeah. I can definitely see that. Although I think that's just a problem with Marvel Comics as a whole. Like, they do that a lot. Like, they bring back characters that really have no business coming back. Jean Grey's one of them. Elektra's another. You know, you also have every time that Professor X has come back from the dead. No. Yeah, no, just death should mean something, and it's kind of frustrating that it doesn't. But yeah. That said, this is good. I like this a lot. I'm glad that this is still in print, you know. Yeah, I'm probably gonna read this in bed and go to sleep while reading this. Yeah. Oh, and also the other thing I picked up this week. This. If you guys, okay. I know we're like bitching about modern comics right now, but seriously, if you aren't reading Ram V's Detective Comics, you're missing out. This book's really good. Shout out to the Dylan over on from the Real Comic Book Gamer. I was watching his live stream for Marvel Spider-Man because they finally got the PC port and he has a PC. So he's playing that, and at the end of the stream, he was really pimping this hard. So I caved. I bought it. and I'm happy with my purchase. It sucks that these are $5. Shit, but worth it. Really good. So yeah, not checking this out. I highly recommend it. I like the Chip Zdarsky Batman book, but this is scratching my itch. Yeah, those are the comments I checked out this week. Thank you guys for showing up, as always. Much love. And, yeah. As always, until next time. Adios, nachos. Adios.